Hello, I'm Charles Randolph, and welcome to the channel. Tonight, my friend Ritchie joins us to share his story of recovery, in particular the home he grew up in, how he came to find recovery, his family now, and his transition into the pivotal role he plays in the community today. If you are suffering from alcoholism or addiction, please reach out. It's never too late. Now, Ritchie, you up? Would you like to introduce yourself and start us off with a bit of your story?
My name's Ritchie. I was born in 81, January 25th, 81, which is kind of funny because 41 years later, on my birthday, I got sober, right? Which you'd think it'd be the day after. But no, I was born in Portland, Oregon. Had a pretty abusive childhood. My mom didn't do drugs. My dad was a drug addict and an alcoholic, real abusive. And I had a brother, Jeremy. He's an older brother by 16 months, right? And we hated each other growing up. My parents would always pin us together or pin us against each other. So about 7 or 8 years old, they got a divorce. And I went with my mom. My brother went with my dad. And so we weren't friends because we were fighting the whole time, right, as kids. And when they separated, we went separate ways, right? Maybe a few years later, I ended up moving in with my dad for a year or so. Both my brother and I went and lived with my mom, right? It was kind of messed up because most of the anger my dad had in his alcoholism went toward my mom and my brother, right? I'd get the occasional, beating or whatever, but it mostly went to my brother and my mom. I was super shy. I was always fucking poor, right? Even though my parents worked their asses off to get whatever we needed or whatever, right? But I remember having my first grade teacher come to the apartment with, Christmas gifts and shit, that were donated, and so they were handing them out to families or whatever. And I'd, hide, because I didn't want them to see me, I went to jail at the age of, 15 or 16. I went to the Oregon Youth Authority. My brother was then living with my dad in Milwaukee, and we were here in St. Helens. And my mom and I. And so at some point, we split up again, right? Mm-hmm. I was getting in a whole bunch of trouble. I started using and drinking, late 80s. Started using drugs and smoking weed in, the early 90s, 90, 91. Eventually got in a whole bunch of trouble here in St. Helens. And I went to the Oregon Youth Authority. When I was in court, when I was in jail, they said I couldn't come back to Columbia County. I went to foster care until all that shit was taken care of, and then I was able to go to my dad's, right? Mm-hmm. And so I lived in Clackamas County and Multnomah County for another 20 years. At the same time, in that 20 years, I was doing the same old shit. I just working a lot, doing a lot of drugs, drinking and driving. Driving wasn't fun unless you're drinking, right? Mm-hmm. I was court ordered to go to AA, and it was, I get to AA, right?
What up?
And it's a bunch of old fuckers with gray beards and shit. And I'm looking around I'm still loaded, And I'm like, no fucking way am I going to come back. And so I went a couple times, and after the second time I was there, they're like, hey, if you don't want to be here, we'll sign your slip, for the next week. Just come back next week. We'll do it again, whatever. I did that for a couple weeks, and then I found out my dope dealer could sign it, right? So I'm like, why even go?
They don't check it.
They don't check it, right?
Yeah.
Fuck cracks me up.
Yeah, his signature works. Yeah. Looks good.
And so, I spent a little bit more time with her. And she would sign my slip, and continue to get loaded. And I never looked back on AA. I'm like, fuck, God this, God that. You got to be flipping kidding me, right?
Right.
Because my dad's putting money in the tithing thing. And we still need shoes, You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, I mean, if you're going to put money in that, you know, where's the God at, right?
Yeah.
Where's your priorities? So that totally turned me off to the rooms for 30 years.
That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Back at AA or NA or any of the A's, you know, I was in and out of jail, always on probation, got clean off the hard stuff, off the meth and heroin and whatever else. Everything but weed and alcohol, right? Had a couple girls. I met one lady that was super sweet. Had my oldest daughter. We broke up a couple years after the pregnancy. And then I met another girl, had another daughter, right? And I'm still taking prescription meds, and alcohol and weed, right? I was a family man at that point, right? Like I could function. I could go to work, come home, on the way home, have a beer, right? Come home, smoke a little weed, whatever. And then the pills were just like a morning. Every morning, you know, you take the morphine, go to work, come home, drink the beer, you know, no more morphine. You know, hit the weed and fucking go to sleep.
Right.
You know, eat dinner. Your routine, right?
Routine.
Perfect.
Yep.
Fucking deal. Shoot it, you know? And that was good until it wasn't, you know. And then my youngest daughter, her mom and I ended up splitting up about a year after the baby came. And both my daughter's moms went back out, right? And that was hard because I was a single dad of 2 girls. Right? And then all of a sudden, like, I had no help, right? Like, they were just gone, you know, but that's what, it's a fucking disease, right? And it's fucking nuts.
I think one thing just on that point is I don't think a lot of people realize, like, when they're judging from the outside, just how much of a shock of responsibility being an only parent would be. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I can't imagine all of a sudden being like, there it is.
Right.
Man, I got all this. What am I going to do?
And and during that time, postpartum wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they were kind of bouncing the idea around of postpartum, but both my daughter's moms had postpartum.
Right.
You know, so, and then, getting shook up with just being a single parent.
Yeah.
And that was cool for a minute. I had a lot of pushback from DHS because I'm still smoking weed, drinking, taking my pills. And how could I be a good dad if I was on these things?
Right.
Right. If I'm doing these things, even with my medical marijuana card, you know. But it just flips your whole world, right?
Yeah.
And
I can't imagine.
And that's what I don't. Like, I'm never probably going to understand what happened or why I left, you know, after, because I did a lot. I ended up relapsing on meth and heroin and all the stuff. And then, and it was a great day. I had houses, I had cars, you know, I had a business, I had employees, I had all the stuff. And then on a great day, you know, relapsed on meth.
It's easy to forget.
Easy. Right? And that's crazy, right? Because you'd think it'd be, you know, your worst day ever, you know, I'm just going to go get loaded. It ain't like that, right? It wasn't like that for me. Lost everything in months, right? In months, I had lost my house, the business, the cars, you know, all the stuff. And in 2017, lost my kids or gave my kids away in a traffic stop. You know, guns, drugs, you know, all the stuff, you know, and don't read the newspaper because it looks horrible. I was like, damn, this dude's
Post link here in description. Check it out later.
This dude's a dirtbag, bro. kids playing with paraphernalia and stuff, you know. And, you know, I used to hate the cops. You know, I used to hate them for my whole life, you know, because anytime they'd come around, it was all negative. There was no negative. There was no positive in any interaction, right?
Right.
That day in 2017, it took me 6 years to say, you know what, that was probably the best thing that ever happened. Even though I gave my kids away, even though, you know, I got all these charges, you know, and I went harder, right, for the next 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got sober, bro, it was like, if that wouldn't happen and I got off paper, right, and I was still doing the same things, I'd probably be dead.
Right.
Like, hands down.
Yeah.
Even though I ran harder, even though it just wasn't, for whatever reason, I still feel that that was the best thing that ever happened, was to get pulled over, lose my kids, and kind of shake it up a little bit.
Yeah. Things aren't getting easier out there.
Hell no.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you see that a lot.
Absolutely.
A lot. But before we go there, like I said earlier, when you speak about your family and just how much of an impact that they have on your recovery, like how much emotion and sincerity that I hear in your voice when you speak about them, how happy you are to have them. I'd like you to talk about that a bit.
So, when I did get sober, January 25th of 22, it's crazy because I could see my kids pulling away from me, right?
Mm.
At the tail end of that 6 years of not having them, after being, their only parent, to not having them. I mean, the longest time they were away was when they took them that night in the car, in the traffic stop, right?
Right.
They hadn't been away from me more than a day or two. And then it was like, boom, 6 years.
Life-changing.
Right? Yeah, life-changing. And that's like one of the things that I always wanted, was to be a parent.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And because I would never do the things that were done to me to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I did, honestly. For 6 years, I neglected them, abused them mentally, right? And all the things, and just became a junkie, right?
Right.
And chose that over them. And so my kids, when I got into treatment, that was pretty freaking hard. I was able to see them once a week, and then nothing. When that happened, they didn't want to come see me after that attempt, right? Neither one of them. And so I spent, and then, I was probably a month into it. And then, the following month, or halfway through the following month, my youngest daughter's mom died, right? So, and that was the thing. So my oldest daughter, her mom died in August of 21. I didn't get sober till January of 22, right? I wasn't there for that. I didn't get to console my daughter. She didn't have a parent. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then March of 22, I was still in treatment. My youngest daughter's mom died of an overdose. So both of them gone within 6 months, right?
Crazy.
So, yeah.
Crazy.
It is. And to be sober, or to get sober, and and obviously it's for myself, but there's not a day that I don't look at them and think, whatever it is out there, I'm there would be no place I'd rather be. Right? Is to be, even if I'm sitting on the couch waiting for them to come out and talk to me, or if they have an answer or a question they need an answer to, right?
Get to be there.
Yeah, I get to be there. Mm-hmm. And that's not what I had, right? So I can change that story for them. They don't have to wonder about boys, or, because I got 2 teenage girls, bro, so I'm dealing with hormones. But oh my gosh. Sometimes I still feel like they hate me, right? I still have all that negative stuff, but I know that they love me. They're just weary. They just want to make sure I'm going to be there.
Right. That makes sense. So, with that transition into the man that you are with your family, you are now a pretty pivotal individual in the recovery community. and making a difference in a lot of people's lives. How was that transition for you, and what are you getting out of that?
There's nothing that I'm not getting out of that.
Right.
Right? Because they say in the rooms, you can't keep what you have been so freely given, right? When I was in treatment, I found a purpose. You know what I'm saying? I didn't realize that my story would be the money, because it definitely didn't feel like that, right?
Right. Usually it's something we're ashamed of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we get used to walking around with that shame.
Holding our heads down.
Maybe not necessarily from from others, but, to ourselves.
To ourselves.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
We do it.
Yeah.
Plagues us.
Absolutely. It can kill us.
Yeah.
It will kill us.
Yeah.
Right? When I went to treatment and got some days under my belt and got some counseling and some therapy, and then being able to live in a house with other individuals that were wanting the same thing made a huge difference. Right? Over time, even with the stuff happening with my kids and not being able to see them through the treatment, just listening to somebody, right? Just having somebody there to talk to was huge.
A moment that I had that was significant for me with my own experience was like when you're talking about being around other people and seeing what they're going through. When you're going through it, it's one thing, right? It's another day.
Yeah.
But then you see another person going through it, that outside perspective, and it's like, damn.
Damn.
Like, really? Wow.
That sucks.
Yeah. No wonder people are saying to change something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's intense.
Super. Like,
it is intense.
It's intense.
It is.
I don't ever want to do it again, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to go through that again.
Yeah. How has it been now stepping into that position, having people look up to you? Is that something uncomfortable?
I try not to think about the power dynamic there, right? So like early recovery, or, because when you're in early recovery, you're freaking vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And so you step up to someone that has some time or some, whatever you want to call it, and you look for advice, or you look to them for support, or you look, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I try to just kind of level myself out with them, honestly. Show a little empathy, you know what I'm saying? Because we have been there. And it does suck. I get the opportunity to do that a lot today, honestly. Forever grateful for the just a little bit of knowledge that the people before me had, that when I sat in those rooms sweating this shit out, or not knowing if I'm in the right place, and then you hear something, right?
Yep.
And the biggest thing for me was, don't get up and leave the meeting at all. And don't go, try not to go to the bathroom, but if you have to, go, you know what I'm saying? But, make sure you take care of all that crap before you go to the meeting, and then just try to listen to the similarities like they tell us.
Yeah. It's a wonderful community.
It's huge.
It's huge. The acceptance, I think that's really big, especially for people like us who have had interesting childhoods or different circumstances, whether it be like health, for example, particularly like with myself, having that sense of acceptance from people when you are being vulnerable, that it's like a blanket.
Yeah.
That is what kept me going back. It wasn't the prospect of all the other things.
Right.
It was just that welcoming, It's amazing how much just having people who can understand you and listen to you, the difference that it can make, it's amazing. A place free of judgment.
Absolutely.
It's huge. All right. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to say or share about?
I think I'm good right now.
All good, man. We'll wait for round 2.
Round 2, yeah.
Thank you, Ritchie.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon. Boom!
Deal.
I sold it.
Shoot it. Yeah.
Oh, awesome, dude. And I do think it will help a lot of people, Ritchie. At least that's my hope.
Even if it helps one,
Yeah, it's worth it, right?
it's worth it. It's worth every second of it.
It's scary taking that leap of faith.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, bro.
It's really scary.
Because I didn't know what the fuck. I just knew I didn't want to get loaded, and I didn't know how
Yeah.
not to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was many times that I was like, "Fuck, dude! If I got a UA on Wednesday, you know what I'm saying? When I couldn't stop, when I wanted to stop, was like, what the fuck is wrong with me?
It's a scary thing
Yeah,
when you're in that spot. You want to quit, but you just can't.
yeah,
I don't think if people haven't experienced it, you know, it's hard to understand.